Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. From the very beginning, let me tell you, I'm going to tell you what you need to know, not what you want to hear. So if you're a Karl Jobst fan, you're going to have to suck it up, Buttercup, because this is not good news. You know, if I had to do an analogy on what happened in this trial, I want to say it reminds me of an overconfident sports team that's supposed to, play a game against somebody of a lesser quality, and they show up to the game overconfident and underprepared. That's what's happened here in my point of view. I am not a lawyer. I'm not an expert in Australian law, but there are several things in here that should be very concerning if you're Karl Jobst, and you really, really should not be feeling as comfortable as you should be. I think everybody coming into this trial would think that this is a slam dunk, especially somebody viewing it from the American point of view. From the American point of view, this is a case of free speech, right? And Karl just giving his opinions on things. It wouldn't be really a case here in the U.S. at all. But we're not dealing with the U.S. We're dealing with Australian law, which I know nothing about. So I have to rely on the arguments of these lawyers going back and forth. Now, let me say this. This is how bad this trial went for Karl Jobst. Ursat Katz, which I believe that's how you pronounce it. Forgive me if I mispronounce it. The writer of this Perfect Pac-Man, the articles that we're publishing, he had to come in and save his ass. He's not taking credit for it. Let me just say that. But I do believe he did save Karl Jobst's ass here by pointing out the timeline that the lawyer got incorrect, right? Not only is this firm charging large amounts of money to Karl Jobst, but they're not even detailed in their work. They said something that that the timeline was completely wrong. And, this gentleman here following the trial live caught it, and his team didn't catch it while it was happening in real time. Now, he was able to text someone for what he says. I'm going to put the video. It's still rendering, guys. This thing's at over an hour. All the testimony. I want you guys to draw your own conclusions. That's why I'm doing this. And I'm making this separate video because, my final thoughts on this would make just the video super duper long. And, the other videos just for informational purposes, so you make your own decisions. These are the conclusions that I came up with. Again, if this was a trial here in America, it wouldn't even be a trial. It would have been over within half an hour, all right? But this is Australia. And when you look at both presentations, and let me just break it down for you. When Karl's barrister was presenting his case, the judge had a number of questions to the statements that his lawyer was making, right? Because the lawyer would make some sort of statement. He would question it for clarification. They were going back and forth. That's the general impression that I got. And you guys can go back and look at those detailed videos for the testimony. That's the reason I put them up. So it's easier to digest. You guys can listen to them while you're in your car, before you go to bed, whatever. If this kind of stuff interests you, go ahead and do that. But that's the impression you get, that this lawyer saying things, he's putting his arguments, and the judge has to draw it out of him. What do you mean here? What do you mean there? And it was really contrasted by the statements, the final statements that Billy Mitchell's barrister was giving. Now, let me say, after he texted that, the lawyer for Karl Jobst went in and corrected it. But it's that egregious, right? When a layperson from observing the trial has to save your ass to a guy that was asking for over $500,000 to get paid, and he probably got that. He was asking for $600,000. They probably did $500,000. I don't know, right? But if I was paying $500,000 in this type of case, I would expect absolute perfection or pretty close to it, right? And you just get that feeling that this guy showed up thinking this case is a slam dunk and underprepared, underestimated the other side. Because when you look at Billy Mitchell's presentation, now let me say this. I think the goals for these two parties are different, right? If you followed the story, if you listened to the story, if you're at any way invested in the story, you know that for Billy Mitchell, this is not about money. But it is about money for the lawyers, and these guys are making out like bandits. We don't know what Billy Mitchell is paying for. I have to say that I would guess between all his trials, he's in the $2 million range already. And it's got to be, in the $1 million range for this case specifically. Okay? And it's not about money for him. For him, it's about proving a point. For him, it's about sending a message. So his directive for his lawyers was much different than the directive, I believe. Okay? These are just layman's terms. Again, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know anything about Australian law other than what I'm reading in these transcripts. But when I look and I see that Billy Mitchell's mission is just to prove anything, right? If Billy Mitchell was to get awarded $1, he would consider it a moral victory, and that's exactly what he wants. He doesn't care that in the end he's going to pay more money in lawyers that he's going to get, from this trial at all, or if he doesn't get any money at all. And the directive for Karl Jobst' lawyers was just, hey, this is a nothing case. This guy he's got nothing. His reputation's already ruined. All you have to do is pretty much show up and just say that, and he's already, we got a couple of high stakes YouTubers. It looks like their frame reference was YouTube. We're going to try this trial on YouTube, which is what most people are doing. I think one of the saddest parts here is that you have people, and you can find in my comment section, that are morally with Karl Jobst, and they say, we're doing this, we're going to do that, or we're going to support him. You better support him with cash, because that's the only thing that matters. Rah-rah comments and all this stuff aren't going to help him. Because if Billy Mitchell, let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's say that he wins $1, right? Let's say that he wins a single dollar out of this thing. The real point of contention is here, who's going to pay these lawyers? Who's going to pay Karl Jobst' lawyers? And if the judge rules that he's got to pay him himself, Jesus Christ, you better love him with some money, because that's going to be insane. That's going to be absolutely insane. And when you look at the case that Billy presented as opposed to what Karl Jobst presented, when Billy's barrister was up there, he was citing other cases that were just blowing my mind, because these cases were, in some cases, to the layperson, about a much less than this case, right? About cases that didn't have anything going close to this, and people were getting money. In cases where here in the U.S., we'd be like, what? How did this person get anything? This is crazy. This is just an opinion or whatever. But he was citing case law with his opinion. So he was doing the job of the judge of guiding him towards where his arguments were coming from based on settled law, right? I'm saying this because of this. I'm saying this because of that. For this case, and citing this, particular case. Where in Karl Jobst' lawyer, he was just making statements to what was going on in the trial. In that way, it just, Billy Mitchell's lawyers just seem more prepared. And that's been the case from the very beginning. And forget about me telling you this, right? I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm a lot more familiar with Billy and his generation and what he's playing, right? There's absolutely an age divide here where, Karl Jobst's fans seem to be younger. So even if you want to take me, right, as being biased towards Billy, you can look at what Ernst Katz is saying, who's a big Karl Jobst fan, and he's not feeling 100% comfortable. He's drawing some of the same conclusions I am, and I'm trying to be more objective, and he's really in the tank for Karl Jobst. And he did a great job of documenting this, even with his bias, I have to say. Even with his bias, he documented everything to the best of his abilities, and that's what I'm drawing my conclusions on. That's not, it's not the same as being in court, right? But this is the commentary that I'm making as a layperson based on this. And then you look at the questions that this judge is asking, which are profound questions, which have to do with the law. And there is no way that you can feel super confident in Karl Jobst's corner. And it's not because he didn't have a good case or he didn't have a good defense. It just feels that he didn't get his money's worth from these people because they just seemed at every turn to be underprepared, right? And don't take my word for it. If Ernst Katz was so concerned that he texted this guy, "You got this wrong," right? That should tell you everything right there. That should tell you that one of the biggest fans of Karl Jobst felt the need to do that because he saw what was going on in court every day. And he needed to tech this guy. And then the guy actually brings it out eventually. And even though he might not want to take credit for it, believe you me, I think that's the only reason that thing got mentioned in court. And if it didn't, it would be even worse for Karl Jobst, even more bleak. I wouldn't feel more than 60% confident if I was Karl Jobst, looking at what I've seen so far, looking at the questions that this judge is asking. If you gave me $100 and say, you have to bet on this, what do you think this outcome is going to be? I would say that the judge is going to find that there's something to this case, right? There's something to by the case of Australian law based on everything that was cited, that there is something to Billy Mitchell's claim. Is it worth $400,000? Absolutely not. I think that he's going to say no. He did something wrong here, more like a slap in the wrist. So, if you said that you were going to make 25 appearances and the next year after the video you only made 5, that means you lost 20 appearances, to times $5,000. That's $100,000, but, even that's too much. So rather than having, Karl Jobst pay you since his bills are so high or whatever, he's going to cut some sort of deal there. And Billy Mitchell might get a moral victory, if you will. And that's all he's looking for. So to him, his money's well spent. When Karl Jobst needed 100% victory here. And he could have had it if his lawyers were better prepared. And I don't know how the hell, in this kind of case, spending $600,000, that's what these guys were asking for, that for $100,000 more, they couldn't do what they should have done. They couldn't do what Ernst Katz did for them. I mean, that is insane. That is insane. I think there's a big disparity between both legal teams, and I think in the end, this will make the case, maybe a little bit more favorable towards Billy Mitchell. And I think that a judge, part of his, job, at least in the way that it's being framed in this court case, and again, I don't know law, right? But the way they're framing things is he has to take into account what the law is and what's being presented. And the fact that what was presented on Karl Jobst side, because they were overconfident and they underdelivered, just gives you bad vibes if you're on that side. Maybe he will prevail, I don't know. But I'm telling you, if I had to bet money, I believe Billy's going to get something. And it's specifically because his lawyers did a better job. All right, guys, I didn't want to put this on the intro to the other video because it would have just made it too long. It's over an hour. It's still rendering. That's why I haven't published it. The video's so long. And, I just wanted you guys to hear the testimony and you guys tell me what conclusions you come to. But the conclusion I came to, man, is Billy Mitchell just has a better team. Money talks, bullshit walks, and it looks like Karl's team really wanted that money. And when they didn't get it, well, it looks like he didn't get his money's worth, at least. But what I'm seeing here, if it's presented properly. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. Thank you for the views. I really appreciate it. Every view counts, right? Every penny counts to a monetized channel. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care.